So, a while back, I made a little tier list that ranked every single monster indoors from scariest to least scary. And now that the Hotel Plus update is out, a lot has changed. Some monsters got improved animations, some new monsters are here to wreak havoc, and overall, a lot of neat stuff has been added. There's also some placements I'd like to change on the tier list as well, since my old one definitely has its flaws. So, in this video, I'll be fixing and updating my old tier list, and giving all of you a new and improved scariest monster tier list for doors. So, without wasting any more time, let's get into the video. To start things off, let's rearrange the old tier list and fix a few mistakes. First off is Figure, who's getting bumped up to the horrifying tier. Figure was a monster that I really underestimated before, and now that I've played a little bit more, I've understood its fear factor. Figure, as one of the only monsters in the game that has a roaming AI, can move around in unpredictable ways, which forces you to pay attention to where he is so that you don't experience a quick game over. If he gets too close, you better pray there's a closet near you, or you're dead. Even if you do hop in a closet, Figure will force you to play a minigame that puts your skills to the test, and if you fail, you die. Pretty scary monster all things considered, and he definitely deserves his placement. The other big placement change I'd like to make is a demotion to Hide, who goes right into the not scary category, while Eyes gets a small promotion to kind of scary. Hide is a monster I heavily overestimated, and those effects are super cool, they really aren't that big of a deal either. With the introduction of Snare, who I'll talk about later in the video, Hyde's not the main partner of Rush and Ambush anymore, and the chances that you'll actually end up getting hurt by him are pretty low. He's not that difficult of a monster. On the other hand, Ice is a monster that can either be a small annoyance or a heart attack, depending on your circumstance. Most of the time, you'll hear the sound effect he makes, and will know to turn away so that you don't lose your entire health bar. However, if he spawns further into a hallway, or spawns in a room opened up by Rush, you won't get that warning. Ice isn't a creature that has a jump scare on him, but having half your health bar suddenly disappear is definitely scary enough. For the final small change to the tier list, Glitch gets a small promotion, going from the kind of scary tier to the bottom of the scary tier. With the new update, Glitch only spawns when a room doesn't appear properly, so he can actually jump scare you by surprise, making him just a little bit scarier, but not by that much. Halt also goes up with Glitch to the scary tier, mainly because his sound design stood out a lot to me when I replayed Doors. It's incredibly unsettling, and I absolutely hate listening to it. So it definitely boosts him up a bit. Oh, and some people got a little mad at me for not putting Guiding Light in my old tier list, so he goes in not scary. There you go. Also, Goblino, Jeff, and Bob all go in not scary. So, now that we fixed the old tier list, let's start updating it and add the new entities in the game, starting with Dupe, who I gotta say, is a real menace. Dupe earns a nice little spot near the bottom of the horrifying tier, mainly because his jump scare is basically Timothy's cranked up to 11. It's a quick, loud, noisy jump scare where his creepy PNG face is shoved right into yours. Short and effective, and definitely a great scare that earns him a spot in horrifying. Now, let's move on to Snare. Snare is a really annoying monster, but he isn't too scary. However, that isn't to say he's not a good spook, so he deserves a spot around the scary tier. The way Snare works is that he basically hides in the dark, and when you step on him, you get a little jump scare before you get bitten, and you have to stop in place before you can move again. He doesn't do a lot of damage, but if Rush or Ambush is coming after you, and you're frozen in place, you're definitely going to suffer. He also hides in the dark, which makes him a little bit scarier, kind of like Screech, and he forces you to watch your step. Pretty well designed monster, so let's move on to the next entity. Void is a really simple monster that was made to replace Glitch, and goes into the not scary tier. If you get too far from your friends, you just get teleported back. He's incredibly simple, and has about as much as a scare factor as a fade to black transition in iMovie. Definitely not a scary monster, and also one that doesn't have a lot to be talked about. Let's move on to the rooms. If you aren't aware of what the rooms are, they're a little secret location that you can access by getting 2 lockpicks and a skeleton key before going to a secret passageway located in room 60. In the rooms are 3 new monsters, who are all very unsettling and can easily end your run. All of this is made scarier by the fact that crucifixes and revives don't work here, meaning that you only get one chance to slip up before you die. With all of this in mind, the monsters in the rooms kind of get a passive increase towards their fear factor. So, keeping this in mind, let's talk about A60, who will be starting off the room monsters. He'll be going towards the top of the scary tier, basically on the same level as Rush, but a little bit scarier. 𝓥𝓲𝓭𝓮𝓸 is basically just a reskin of Rush, but the lights don't flicker, so you have to rely entirely on your ears to sense him. If you get to a locker in time, congrats, you survived, but if not, it's an instant death. His design is also pretty decent, and though it's nothing special, it's good enough for a horror game. 𝓥𝓲𝓭𝓮𝓸 is a standard horror game monster that earns a spot in the scary tier. Now, to move on to 𝓥𝓼𝓭, he deserves a spot in the middle of the horrifying tier. 𝓥𝓼𝓭 is one of the most annoying monsters indoors, and around the same level as Screech. He appears randomly with very little warning before he appears on your screen and forces you to stop moving. If you do end up moving, then he does a really loud jump scare and takes away 90% of your health bar. It's a pretty scary jump scare that can get you to jump out of your seat if you aren't prepared. You also aren't given much time to react to his appearance, and he also loves to appear when other monsters are jumping you, so there's a lot of times where you'll be double teamed when 𝓥𝓼𝓭 appears. His design is also pretty good, as the glitchy face is definitely unsettling to look at. He's incredibly annoying, just like Screech, but also pretty scary. For one of the last hostile monsters in the new update, let's talk about 𝓥120, who has a pretty annoying gimmick that mixes up the standard Rush type of monsters, and earns him a nice spot in the middle of the scary tier. 𝓥120's special ability is that he activates in a room that isn't guaranteed to have lockers, right after a room that does have lockers. This means that if you realize he's coming after you, you'll have to backtrack to the room before and hide in a locker unless you want to get jump scared. He goes near the top of the scary tier, as he's not too special compared to Rush, but still really annoying and scary when he spawns. Now, to end things off, let's rank Curious Light so that this tier list can actually rank all monsters. He's obviously not scary, just like Guiding Light, and it's as simple as that. So, with all of that having been said, that's the finished tier list for Doors monsters as of the Hotel Plus update. As you've probably noticed, I didn't explain my rankings for some of these monsters, and the reason for that is because you can see my reasoning in my previous video that will be linked in the description below. Check it out if you want to see why I placed those monsters where they are. Other than that, this tier list is purely my opinion, so don't worry if there's something you disagree with. Feel free to also leave a comment explaining your own placement, though do keep things civil to avoid any personal conflicts. Anyways, that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed watching, I'd greatly appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe, which will notify you of other uploads so you don't miss out on anything. As always, I'm 𝓥𝓲𝓭𝓮𝓸, and I'll see you next time in another video. Have a great day, and bye.